for people listening in right now, if you're working a full-time job, if you're working that full-time job with excellence, you've got to change your perspective on the other income stream that you're creating and saying like, wow, I'm so good at this. I can only imagine how good I'm going to be at this when I'm able to work it full time. But let me see what I can do in this hour. Let me see what I can do in these 2 hours. You've got to learn to be in a better relationship with the time that you have and have a better perspective on it.
Welcome my guest today, Cayla Kraft. She is a former ER nurse turned wellness entrepreneur. Host of Mommy Millionaire podcast, is a mom of 3, a self-made millionaire, best-selling author, and lifestyle entrepreneur. She got started in her entrepreneurship journey by building a network marketing business with Isagenix, where she currently is the top 50 income earner. She is also the founder of Mommy Millionaire, a business that serves women via business coaching and social media marketing. Cayla has inspired thousands of women to believe in themselves as entrepreneurs and business women. Her main goal is to help women shamelessly pursue their ambitions and grow their business to 7 figures. Cayla Kraft, welcome to Passion, Love, Pursuit podcast. I'm so happy to finally have you on the show. Like I said, I've been following you for some time, been snooping around your Instagram, and I just love everything you share, the energy you bring, your authenticity, and the powerful insight. So I'm just so happy to have you on. Thank you.
Yay. I am so excited to be here. I love being on people's podcasts that are all about impact. And I know we got a chance to talk about your audience a little bit before, so I'm really excited to serve them today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, for those that don't know you yet, you've coined the term and the brand Mommy Millionaire. So for those that don't know, definitely go check her out. Lots of goodness that you share, but I would love for people to know who Cayla was before becoming Mommy Millionaire. What's your story and your background? And then we'll get into all the goodness you're going to share today.
Oh my goodness. Well, so I grew up with a single mom. So if there's any single moms listening in right now, I love you and I'm obsessed with you because you've got it hard. And my mom was just absolutely incredible because she taught me as a young child that anything you say out loud comes true. Okay. So she would never allow my brother and I to say like, we're sick. Okay. She'd be like, no, eat a clove of garlic. Here's like, she'd make a weird concoction and be like, don't ever let those words come out of your mouth again. We're like, oh my gosh. But she was that drastic that it really helped me later on in life because I knew if I said it out loud, it was going to come true, So I didn't want bad things to come true. I wanted good things to come true. And I was always very mindful of my words. Thanks, Mom, if you're listening in. And, that was the one good thing, but there were other things that, were really hardships on me. My dad was in jail for most of my life. And, that just made me different as a kid, like nobody else I went to school with had a dad in jail. Maybe their dad wasn't around as much, but he didn't like do something bad to be in jail. So I kind of grew up with a lot of shame because I was like, if people find out that my dad's in jail, they're going to think I'm a bad person too. And that's really heavy for a kid to carry with, like I'm a mom of 3 now. So now I realize that impact it had on my mind and at a very young age. So yeah, I carried that with me for a long time and I became a nurse by the time I was 21 because I just wanted to help people. And I also wanted to have a stable paycheck. Okay. And then I'm like 23 years old and I'm like, yeah, this is really not going to work out for me. I did not like having a boss at all. And I had a 1-year-old at the time and I was like, I need to figure out how to stay at home with him because I'm obsessed with him and I never want to leave him. And so I did. I started a network marketing business when I was 23 and was able to make $1 million in commissions by the time I was 26. And that was a really big deal because I became the first millionaire in my family. And what that did for my confidence was I already had a lot of confidence, but that just gave me like a whole nother booster. Like, okay, Cayla, you can do anything. Like you can do anything. And that's where the idea from Mommy Millionaire came was I was like, I want every mom to know if they want financial freedom, it's available to them. And I'm going to show them how to do it. So, yeah, that's kind of how the dream started with Mommy Millionaire. I want to help 1 million women make $1 million or more a year. And I do that through my podcast, my live events, my masterminds, my group coaching programs, and social media.
That's so amazing. So I'm curious. I mean, thanks for sharing your story. It's so good for moms or anybody to hear what you came from. Because growing up with a single mom, I'm sure she maybe didn't have all the resources that
Mhm.
she needed to necessarily raise a family. I don't know if you have siblings, but to be a single mom, I'm sure she felt limited in her abilities to provide so much for the kids. So I'm just curious, your identity before becoming a millionaire, was there something that you felt limited by growing up with a single mom and also your father in jail? Did you have identity that you had to kind of rewire to step into becoming a successful millionaire?
Yeah, I definitely had a victim mentality where I thought something was owed to me because I had such a hard childhood. And then I realized like nobody's gonna come in and save me. I've got to save myself, when I was around like when I was in my early 20s. And uh I think that I never like realized I had a victim mindset, because I wasn't like sitting around saying I'm a victim and woe is me. I was like already successful. Like I was a charge nurse by the time I was 22 in the ER, so I was, I was successful in that respect. And, I always went above and beyond. I always overachieved in everything I did to prove myself. Right. And that was just what I did. So it kind of served me well because when I found network marketing, I was like, I'm going to be better than everybody else. Like that's kind of the mindset I had. Right. And then I did really well, but I still like felt like I wasn't enough, even when I had made the $1 million in commissions. So I had to switch my mindset in that and go like, am I doing it to prove it to everybody else? Look how unfulfilling that is.
Yeah.
What if I could do it to, just make myself happy? What if I could do it to change the legacy of my family? How do I reframe this to really serve, generations to come? And, started asking better questions like that when I opened up my first personal development book, which was Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And I thought I was reading it and I'm like, this guy's a wackadoo. And I literally thought that. I was like, this is so freaking weird. But I was like, I'm just going to try it. Like this guy's a multimillionaire. I'll just try it. And then he talks so much about the power of your words and like, all of the things that you should be doing now to really change your legacy. And it made me start thinking differently. And I realized I had so much power. I was not a victim. All those things that happened in my life happened for me, because now I got into business and I had extremely thick skin,
Hmm.
where most people like they try to start a business and they fail because they can't handle the rejection.
Right.
For me, I'm like, like bye. It didn't affect me the way it affected most people because I had experienced so much rejection just in my own home, with my
Yeah.
dad and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
When you
So
first started in the network marketing business, did you have somebody at the top of the company help guide you to implement the strategies to build your business, or did you kind of just go after yourself?
yeah, no, I didn't really have any mentorship. I mean, I had an upline that was like, "You got this, Cayla. You're amazing." Like that type of encouragement. But no, I definitely had to figure it out on my own. It was right in the space where Facebook was only 2 years old at that time. So, people were like still didn't know how to what's a personal brand?
To
Like
use
people
it,
didn't
yeah.
know that was a thing and then we made it a thing. So, trial and error along the way. But I kind of work best with that. Like I don't like people telling me what to do. So I liked it because there was so much freedom and like what I could try and what
Yeah.
would work.
Yeah. And then when you started the network marketing business, I assume you were still nursing at this time. So how did you, because I know you were a new mom. So speaking to the moms out there or the fathers out there
Yeah.
that want to do this side hustle, but they have to take care of their family. They want to obviously keep their marriage or relationship. So balance all the things. So I'm curious, were you still doing the nursing and how did you create that balance to be able to build something successfly?
Okay. You guys are going to laugh because absolutely I was still nursing. So I was working at this point when I had started network marketing, was transitioning to days in the ER. And then I was also working as an instructor at the local college in the nursing school. So I was grading and I was in person teaching at the hospital. And I also would pick up shifts, extra shifts, because I did like per diem at random hospitals to make extra money. So to say I was busy was an understatement, right? And I had a 1-year old and I was pregnant. He was
Oh my
one and a
goodness.
half. Yeah. So, you know, I personally was showed really great work ethic by my mom. She worked 12-hour days, okay, to pay the bills. And still even then it wasn't enough. I mean, she declared bankruptcy when I was 8
Mm.
and we lost our family home. God bless her, but she showed me like work hard, okay? And so that's just what I did. I was just like, well, duh, if I have an extra hour, I'm going to be working. That was my mindset at the time. Right. And so it was what I got to post about this and I'm going to make X, Y, and Z. That's easy. That takes me no time at all. That was my mindset with it, And so, um, time is relative, right? To the person's situation and circumstances that they're in. And for me, 1 hour was like 24 hours for somebody else,
Mhm.
but I got so much done. And I was glad that I was working a lot at that time because my confidence was through the roof because I was great at nursing, And so for people listening in right now, if you're working a full-time job, if you're working that full-time job with excellence, you've got to change your perspective on the other income stream that you're creating and saying like, wow, I'm so good at this. I can only imagine how good I'm going to be at this when I'm able to work it full time. But let me see what I can do in this hour. Let me see what I can do in these 2 hours. You've got to learn to be in a better relationship with the time that you have and have a better perspective on it.
So what would you recommend? Like what would be some of your tips to utilize the time we have, even that half an hour, maybe when the kids are napping or whatever it may be, how do you maximize your time? What are some tips you could
Well,
recommend to build
I
something?
it's all going to be dependent on what type of business you're in, but you've got to see what is the needle mover because a lot of people do busy work, right? They're like, let me make sure that, my Instagram looks pretty or let me scroll for 20 minutes and get inspired here. Like nobody has time for that actually. Like you have to be unavailable for that. And you have to see what is the number one needle mover in my business. For me, and it still is, 11 years later, the number one needle mover is to get more clients. Okay. And what is the number one action I can take to gain more clients? Well, usually it's to offer. It's to put out the offer to somebody. So if you have 30 minutes, how many conversations can you have in 30 minutes with people? How many people are you offering the offer to in those 30 minutes? Because that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people, they spend way too much time thinking about the content, which the content that you post is extremely important, right? But it doesn't matter if you're not transitioning people and converting them into customers. So, how many conversations are you having? I think is really important.
That's such good advice. Yeah, I definitely think a lot of us spend nonsense time on the little things
Mhm.
that we could possibly outsource inexpensively to begin. So, as far as network marketing, I know when you built Millionaire or Mommy Millionaire, you built obviously so much in your network marketing business, but are you still doing that now or has that kind of, are you not putting any more time into the network marketing?
Yeah. So I actually left that original company about a year ago.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that I mean, I could do a whole podcast on that. left that. I was there for 9.5 years and then transitioned into another company. So I've actually built a whole nother team and rose to the top of that company. And yeah. And now I don't think I'll ever not do network marketing because like even on my podcast, Mommy Millionaire, I just did an episode recently on, my streams of income, broke it down for people, and now we have 15 streams of income. And I look at network marketing as one of those streams. That's amazing because it's residual, comes in monthly, and it's for work you did once. Network marketing is the easiest thing once you get into momentum, and it just keeps snowballing. So I'm obsessed with that because you leverage your sales team, you know? So yeah, but it's one of the streams that we have. It's not my everything. And I'm an entrepreneur. So it's just like, I've got to have a lot
Have
of
your
things
hands in a
going
lot
on.
of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, speaking about the multiple income streams, I'm just curious if you were to recommend based on your experience, because you have your podcast that you create revenue from, you've been an author, you have your courses, mastermind, blah, 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 so many things. If you were to just sound advice, if you had some guidance where somebody should start, should they possibly have a podcast or should they write a book and then do a course or do a course? And then what do you have like a recommendation of the best strategy of where to begin to create multiple income streams if they have a personal brand they're building?
Yeah. If you have a personal brand, I am obsessed with podcasting. All of my we have 6-figure clients. All of them come from my podcast. They listen in, and those are the people like that just are diehards. So, and I love them. They're my favorite, my listeners on my podcast. And so I would say if you can commit to doing a podcast, absolutely do a podcast and do a sell, don't even worry about getting sponsorships on it. Like I don't have any sponsorships on my podcast. It's all self promotion on there. And that's what's really paid off in the last couple of years since we've done the podcast. So I would say for sure that, um, and then also just social media. I mean, social media is completely free. So what you could do, organically over there that costs you $0 because a podcast is going to cost you money, right? It's worth it, but also like if you are just getting started and you don't have a lot to invest, like get over on social media and start serving with your expertise and offer over there.
Very nice. And how about as far as being an author and having courses, masterminds, what do you recommend there? Because I'm just curious, some people think to write a book before offering possibly a service. Would you do the reverse or how would you recommend that?
Well, being an author isn't going to make you a lot of money. Like it's just not like I just got a book deal right now. But the first time I self-published and you just don't make a lot of money that way. If you want to go the self-publishing route, you've got to go in there and you've got to take them to your offerings. That's the way you make money off the book. Right. So, I would say when you are in the overflow, right? So you've already made money from your programs, then you can write from a much different heart space of service. But if you go into like, this book has to make me money, it's a different energy. And I just don't see that working out as well. Right. So I think if you have something that solves somebody's problem right now, don't wait. Start putting out the offer. Start putting out the offer and see, you might find 100 ways that don't work, but you might find one that does.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. So good to hear that because I think a lot of people question that, like, what should I do first? When they have this side hustle, they're passionate about something and there's so many options now available in the online space, especially. So it's good to know like what's the best route to go to make
And
profit.
I think people that use the word side hustle, it's a disservice, right? That's a disservice to them. I am huge on just using the word streams of income, right? Because if I called all my 15 things side hustles, that first of all would stress me out, right? Like
Right.
that would
That's true.
like, when am I going to have time for that?
Exactly.
But streams of income, right? Then you take it much more serious and you
That's
treat
true.
it like a professional and you treat it like, okay, this is the opportunity. This is a challenge in front of me to get this stream of income going, and as a personal brand, you could have a group coaching program. You can have a speaking service. Like you can have a couple different outlets through your personal brand alone, that will bring in streams of income. So you should say which one's going to be the most profitable right now, that's going to solve the biggest problem right now.
Yeah. I love how you reworded that. Thank you for correcting that because I completely agree. That's a good thing to point out. And so I'm not a mom personally, but for the moms that are listening that could really relate to this, what would you say to moms that feel this guilt to pursue their dreams and go after something that is, something that they're super passionate about that might not immediately make them income? What would you say to give them that permission to go after it?
Yeah. Well, okay. So this one's hard for me because I believe that not everybody needs to go after it right now. Okay. And the reason why is because, are you doing it because all the cool kids are doing it? Right. Because a lot of people will do that. Like, and I'm like, do you really want to build an empire right now? Do you really want to do this? And they're like, no, I kind of like being a stay-at-home mom. I kind of like just like doing this. And I see myself doing that later on. And it's like, there's the permission slip. Go and do that. Like, you do not need to build an empire right now. People have this thing like, oh, if I don't do it now, it's going to be too late in 10 years when my kids are grown. And that's a lie. Like, it's not going to be too late. You're still going to be you in 10 years, and the world's still going to need you in 10 years. So you really have to peel back the layers and find out if it is what you really want, because passion is not enough to create a business. It's just not, because when it gets hard, you're going to have a million and one reasons to quit. And most do. And then they feel even more shameful. They're like, God, I'm going to waste my time and money on that. Right.
Yeah.
So really question it. If it's something where you're like, I absolutely want to be a mom and I want to pursue this thing, and I know it's going to help a lot of people, it's going to solve a specific problem, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. You've got to have that I'm willing to do whatever it takes mentality, because quite literally, you might have to do whatever it takes. Okay. So if you have that, then guess what? Guilt, you've got to basically release your relationship with guilt. Release your relationship with guilt. Guilt is bondage. Okay. Guilt is a spirit of bondage over you. So you could say, spirit of guilt, leave my body, leave my home, leave my bank account, leave my mind, leave me alone. Leave me alone. I don't have time for this anymore. But people like try to be like, oh, guilt, what are you trying to tell me? It's like, no, bye. Like, you are not helpful. You're making me play small. You're making me live in a spirit of fear. And this is not true. This is not going to be helpful for me. So you have to remember, that's your power. That's your birthright, is to command like things to be a part of you or to not be with you. And hopefully that's like makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then from that place, you decide, like, how do I want to feel when I'm going after this dream and I'm still a mom? How do I want to feel? I want to feel empowered. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel like I'm inspiring my kids. Okay. Then that's how you get to feel. So anytime the guilt comes up again or the fear comes up again, or again, you tell it to leave. It's not welcome here, because I'm an empowered woman. I'm a fulfilled woman. I am changing people's lives every single day. Your language forms your reality. This is personal development 101, right? We know this, but still so many of us will be like, I'm feeling so guilty today. It's like, why are you calling things into your life? When I'm saying that, I feel so guilty, I'm literally calling more guilt into my life. And so you've got to watch your words. You got to watch your words. And I think that's the biggest thing. People will, and then they'll call up their friends, be like, I feel so guilty. And they'll post about it on social media. I feel so guilty. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. This is gonna,
Like
you're
going
making
for
it
the
worse.
ride.
Yeah. Like, you're literally making it worse. And sometimes you make it so worse that it's going to take you years to get out of that shame cycle. So speak what you want to be true. Speak what you want to be true. So I don't ever entertain the guilt thing at all. I've been doing this for 11 years, obviously. And, my kids are 11. Well, he's almost 12, 9 and 7. And all they know is mom being an entrepreneur. Okay. That's all they know. And I love to share this with people because my son, both the boys are hockey players, but my oldest, he's building his brand right now because
Amazing.
he wants to be drafted. Right. So I'm like, hey, if it's between two guys with the same skills and talents and they go to your Instagram and they see that you have influence, they're picking you. Like that's just the day and age that we're in,
Mhm.
like your influence has weight. And so he knows that. So he's already out there, Mom, will you do this reel with me? Will you do this for me? Like, it's so cute because hello, and he doesn't question like, oh, is it dumb? Is it no, he's just like, oh yeah, come do this. Like he just has that entrepreneur mindset. He's already labeled himself craft hockey because he's like, I'm gonna come out with sticks, I'm gonna come out with tape, we're gonna
Amazing.
have a whole line, right?
That's
But like
great.
because he's seen me do this for his entire life, solve problems. So he's over here solving problems. My 9-year-old daughter, she is an actress and a singer, and she's everything that I wanted to be when I was a child. Okay, basically. And she just like, oh, she gets on my podcast and she'll just talk
Mhm.
and give advice. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. But like she's gonna be an entrepreneur. She's already
Mm.
like, Mom, I'm gonna take over Mommy Millionaire, you know? And she's thinking like that. So your kids will watch you. Your kids will be inspired by you. We have this huge house, and I said, "You guys know what? If you never want mommy to work again, we could just live in this house." I'll show them like a smaller house, which there's nothing wrong with smaller houses, okay? But I'm like, and my daughter's like, no." She's like, "You're working tomorrow." Like they don't care as much as we think they do. Like they like to have the life of options, like she gets to
Mhm.
work with the best vocal trainer. Cooper gets to work with the best skating coach because we have options because we have money.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to touch on a couple of things there. So, first of all, obviously, your strongest suit is mindset. And you touched on obviously what you speak into your reality. What you speak out, it becomes your reality.
Mhm.
I am super mindful of my words. I try to always catch myself and I try to think of how could I rephrase this. But what do you feel is the biggest thing when it comes to mindset that the people, your clients, struggle with? What is the biggest um, limitation they put on themselves?
Mhm. I think for especially now, this is very relevant that people will go into that competition spirit. Like, well, she's already done that. And she, X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why are we even looking at her? Why are we even looking at her? If she doesn't make you feel happy and joyful and all you do is compare yourself to her, why are we looking at her? And so, to bring that point around, it's like you've got to really guard your environment, okay? Because weeds will grow in there when you're looking at things that are not serving you. And all of a sudden, you planted a little weed in there, and because you forgot that you saw that thing that planted the weed, all of a sudden it's overgrown and it's overtaking all the good things that you had in your mind, because that's what weeds do. They overpower, you know? And so you've got to watch what you're looking at. Watch the shows you're looking at. Question them. Is this helping me accomplish my goals? Is this social media page that I'm following helping me accomplish my goals? Is this like social gathering I'm about to go to? Is that going to help me accomplish my goals? Or am I going to leave there feeling like crap about myself? You know? And you've got to protect your mind at all costs. That's the biggest thing I think that people struggle with is they're like, "Oh, but I like watching her because she sometimes says good things." And like, "What? Bye."
Yeah. It's funny because I know people used to say like social media is all negativity and all these things. And I'm like, I really don't think that because I follow incredible people that inspire me and show me what's possible. So
Yes,
I always have good content on my feed. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. But the thing is, I also don't want to get sucked into all that and instead create my own remarkable feed, if you want to say. So that's another thing
absolutely.
is being mindful of obviously how much time you spend looking at your outside environment. Uh, the other thing I was going to ask you is, or I've heard you talk about the awareness of our beliefs and being aware of these thoughts that actually come in, and how could we be more conscious and develop that awareness? Like, what do you recommend?
Well, journaling is extremely important because sometimes we don't even know what we're thinking until we just get a blank piece of paper and we just start writing it out and you're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was in there." And so write until you can't fill up the page anymore. And then go and look at what you've written. And is there a belief in there that I need to question? Right? And I always say, does this belief hold up under scrutiny? So if we were to put a magnifying glass on it and really dissect it and see every part of that belief, is it going to hold up as true? Most of the time, not. Most of the time, there's a way that we're going to be able to break that belief. But we've got to know that it's in there, first of all. So journaling, I journal morning and night. And, it's different. People will always be like, well, how long? I'm like, don't give yourself like that. That is so
Restrictions.
much
Yeah.
pressure, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes I get, 30 seconds and I'm like, oh, right. Because I'm so tired at night. But it's just a habit I've created. I have a journal next to my bed. And so I do it at night. And sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night with a dream or something and I like to write it down and I'll dissect it in the morning. But just creating that healthy habit of getting it out onto paper so we can see what's really going on in there. Because your mind is not your friend, people. Your mind is not your friend.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when you realize that you're in charge of that baby, then you can tell it what to do. You can tell it which direction you want it to go. And it makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah. And I actually heard that, speaking of your kids, how they, obviously they see your example of what's possible for them. And I've heard you talk about, you taught them how to visualize
Mhm.
and how strong that has influenced their life. Can you kind of touch on that? I love when, just so you know, I love when parents share how they, give teach kids, because I believe there's so much not taught in schools these days. And I am so passionate about kids learning the tools that we wish we would have had when we were younger, like how to develop confidence, how to balance your checkbook, how to do this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And so I love that you share what you teach your kids to do as well, just by, of course, example.
Mhm. Well, one of the practices that we do for visualization is just at night before we go to bed. And we always pray. And then I say, what do you guys want to dream about tonight? And seriously, every single night, my 11-year-old is like, my first game for the LA Kings. That's who he wants to get like drafted by. And so I will take him into a guided visualization and he falls asleep to that. So, and then, with Charlie, the same thing, she's like, oh, I'm on Broadway. And every night with her, it's a different Broadway show that she's doing. And, I just like guide her into that and she sleeps like that. And the way that this came up, and Channing, every night he's swimming with dolphins or he's doing something crazy, which is
That's
awesome. But the way that that started coming up was Charlie started having bad dreams a couple years ago. And I was like, what? This is so weird, what can I do? Because this is happening in her subconscious mind. And most parents, they just go, oh, well, my kid has night terrors. And that just is what it is. And, I just have to watch him. And I'm like, no, that's not just is what it is. Like,
Yeah, there's a reason, of course.
yeah. So basically, we started doing the visualizations. We started doing affirmations. We started reading scripture for her and really just like, turning her heart into joy. That's what I wanted to do was joy and help her see positive, 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 positive. She was saying a lot of negative things.
Mm.
And, but it was also relative, like she was going through a little hard time in school. So we started doing the visualizations and she's like the happiest kid ever right now, like happiest kid ever. And so, yeah, so that's kind of how it started was we had a problem in our family and I'm like, gosh, you know what? I do visualization. Why am I not teaching them how to do this? So we started doing it at night.
I love that. It's so amazing. And also, I've heard you talk about, well, actually, no, to touch on. So there's a lot of women entrepreneurs these days that are making $1 million or six figures or whatnot. I'm just curious, the dynamic in a relationship, obviously your husband is Chase. I'm just curious, when you first started your entrepreneurship journey, how was the dynamic when you were just going all at it, probably, 12 hours a day at least? I'm just curious, how was that dynamic? And I've heard you talk about that there was a struggle at one time, but it's shifted and now your marriage is great. So I'm just curious the dynamic of what was that shift that transformed the relationship?
Yeah. So the shift, he was absolutely against it when I first started being an entrepreneur, because it shifted his whole world real quick,
Mm,
because his version of like what was going to happen in our future was, he was going to take over his dad's family business. That's where he worked. And then I come in and I'm like, oh no, that is not going to happen. Right. Like 2 years after we had been married, I'm like, oh yeah, that's not going to work for me anymore. We're going to be entrepreneurs ourselves and we're going to become really rich. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Um, so he did not like it at all. But I realize now, I'm like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have just come in and been like, things time's up. Like we're not doing that jig anymore. And I should have just like talked with him about how I was feeling, and what I really wanted out of my life, and asked him what he really wanted out of his life. Like, hello, that would have been great communication, Cayla. But hindsight is 2020. So it was probably, 4 years ago we moved to Newport Beach. And the reason why we moved to Newport was because we lived in a town where we both had grown up in. It was smaller. And I just hated living there. It was very stale energy. Okay. Like in the summers, it's like 110 degrees. You don't want to go outside. Everything there is agriculture. The air is really bad. And I did not know another entrepreneur there. Okay. I
mm.
did not know another entrepreneur there. I was like a black sheep at every play date that my kids were having. I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, I don't want to be in this place anymore. So I finally like talked him into like, okay, let's move. It's only 3 hours away from your family. And when we moved to Newport, that was really a shift in our family, because he got to really get away, not that his family is amazing, by the way, but he got to like really, like, for the first time ever in his life, you know, think about what he wanted, like
Mm.
from his family. Like, what is my legacy going to be? And we were surrounded by other entrepreneurs here. Like every single person in our circle is an entrepreneur. And he was like, oh, wow. Like, his wheels started turning. Like, Cayla's not crazy. Like, this is actually a real sustainable thing. Like, I could do anything I want in the world. And again, environment, right? Your environment matters so much. And that absolutely shifted our marriage, because we had to cling to each other. We no longer had family to like, "Oh, I'm going to go to my mom's or I'm going to go to my dad's. We had to come together, which was extremely helpful. And he really got to learn independence for the first time in his life, which is so crazy because we had already been married for a while, right?
And you
But you
married
don't,
so young too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was 19 and I was 21
Yeah,
when
that's
we got
really
married.
young. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And most people like, they don't beat those odds. Right. But we just chose, like, we are two completely different people than we were when we got married. And we've just chosen to fall back in love, fall in love again, basically, with this new version of, each other. And it's been really incredible. It's been a lot of hard work. A lot of communication has had to happen. And I think that's the biggest thing. You've got to communicate your feelings before it's a big, huge thing. And
Absolutely.
so now we just have a very open and honest relationship about everything. And that started because we moved,
Wow.
honestly.
Okay. And how do you balance like the feminine and masculine energy? Because obviously, being an entrepreneur, it's a lot in the masculine, or it can be. So I'm just curious, how do you balance that being just a successful woman entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I am very strict about my work hours. So I'm done working by 2:30 every day. And that's usually when I'm going to go get the kids. And once I go into mom mode, I literally will change my clothes. So I'm just like mom
That's
mode,
awesome.
because I want to just, be a mom. Now, being a mom is super masculine, by the way. Like, all you're doing is doing, and planning and organizing. So how do you go from that to then stepping into your feminine with your husband? Uh, I truly believe that I pray over this all the time. Like, help me submit to Chase. Like, help me let him lead me, because
Mm,
that is really hard for me. And I do that by, there's a couple things that I do, but I always want to point out to him how he is my provider. So even though I might be like technically the breadwinner, okay. I hate saying that because he's like building up a huge, massive business right now that's going to blow me out of the water. And I'm so
amazing.
proud of him. But like, I always say, like, gosh, like, babe, you today, like, the way you showed up for me in this in that way, like, you totally provided emotional safety for me. Like, thank you so much. That right there, like, just those words make him like, "Ugh," like he's like this big old like lion, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I'm your man," like, so even that, like, submission to him of how I'm saying he's providing emotional safety helps Chase, like, whew, he can handle me and my energy. So that's really helpful because
Yeah.
very strong, I think strong spirits need an even stronger spirit. And he has that. He didn't always have that because like I never gave that to him. Like I'm like, oh, what'd you do today? Nothing. I was such a biatch. But um anyway, you live and you learn. So that's one thing I do. And then I try to like do physical things. Okay. So physical things are like not wearing a bra, not wearing underwear. They, for some reason, I'm telling you, they make you feel more feminine. Like, I don't know if the girls like, listening in right now can agree with that. But like when it's wife time, like that's something I'll do. Like, even if I'm just walking around the house, like I'll literally I'll put on a dress, by the way, always a dress and just like, not wear underwear, not wear a bra. And he's like, "You're so sexy." I'm like, "I know. I love you." Like, then we just flirt. Flirting is like the easiest way to get into your feminine. That's the most female power there is like being able to use your sex appeal to like, have fun. So yeah, I mean, I could go on. I could write a whole book on it.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important. And I think you're the perfect person to talk about this because you're playing so many roles. And obviously, you've learned a lot of lessons along this entrepreneurship journey. So I think it's so
Yeah.
great because I think that's such a common topic today is
Mhm.
that feminine, masculine energy. And I think it's because the roles have shifted so dramatically over the past years, which is great. So
Yeah.
it's great to hear that advice and little tips of how we could operate in our feminine more. So I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to know how you stay in alignment. Like, what are your non-negotiables or boundaries? We talked about environment, how important that is, but do you have certain non-negotiables that you need in your life to be aligned?
Yeah. So for me, like I have to read the Bible every single day. Like that is a huge non-negotiable for me. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Once I start talking, I like totally have to get a cough drop. Um, so that is a huge non-negotiable for me, just reading it out loud. Cause I love like God's word and just being able to like command angels around me to like do their thing for me is really important. I exercise every every day, whether it be a hike or going to the gym to lift weights, that has to happen. And it just makes me feel so much better. Another thing that has to happen, like it's like simple things, but like I have to drink 32 ounces of lemon water before like I do anything else in the morning, like fueling my body. And these are simple things that people overlook, but like without your health, you have nothing.
Agreed. Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of people overlook that. "Oh, let me go do this for my business." And it's like, I've done that before. I've had major adrenal fatigue, had a lot of health issues. So my health is like a huge priority to me. And
And it's the one thing we could control as well. Like by doing
Mhm.
these simple things, I so preach that is like we can't control what's happening in the world, but the only thing we can control is what we do with our life and our actions and taking care of our health. So I think it's so critical to have those non-negotiables.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then like some other, I just do a lot of biohacking things, like my sauna, my cold
Nice.
plunge. I do lymphatic drainage massages twice a week. That's been really good for me. And like business wise, I think like non-negotiables are I always try to pour into my team. So up until recently I had a team of 8 employees, and just like 2 weeks ago I only have two now. I had coaches that
That's a
worked
big
for me.
change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's good though. It's what I needed. I realized I don't want an empire. Um I want a smaller team. So um anyways, but always pouring into my team. Like, okay, how can I help you? Like really having servant leadership. So non-negotiable is asking them how I can help them and giving something to them every single day, whether it be like a little quote that made me think of them, or sending them a coffee, DoorDash, because we're all virtual. I try to do something like that to give to my team every day. So
Amazing. Amazing. And what's some things that you teach your children?
every day.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So one of the things again is reading scripture out loud. We do that every single night. Reading. So my kids get paid. It depends on what book it is, but if they do a personal development book, they get paid $100.
That's so
Okay.
great. I love that. I love that.
So yeah, like it's huge. And then if they stretch, they get $10. I want to teach them the power of stretching now, because I wish somebody would have taught me that when I was young.
Wouldn't have thought about that. That's such great advice.
Oh
Movement,
my
like
gosh.
to get their body
Yeah.
in full motion. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So I have like specific stretches I have them do, and from our chiropractor, and they get paid for that. And then writing. So they also get paid to write. And I know this sounds crazy. It's like, really, you're paying them? I don't pay them to do chores. We have a full-time house manager. But again, that's not really going to teach them life lessons, knowing how to do laundry. They do know how to do laundry, but like teaching them, the person who wrote those books is the person who's probably making the most money. And, like the writing skill is huge. You've got to know how to write. And so getting them in that skill of
And
writing
it's
every single
creative
day.
as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
To get their creative juices flowing. That's great.
Yep. So we have an app. It's called Greenlight. And if anybody's interested in trying it, you could just message me Greenlight on Instagram. But I just automatically load them. So they check their chore off, and then they get the money loaded to them. They can either use that to spend, or like they have a spend account and then they have an invest account. And so you can, with the money you give them, you can allot it to, this has to go into investment, or this can go into spending. And I love it because they all have their own card, and it tells me if they've spent any money, which
Amazing.
yeah. So my 11-year-old, he goes to a hockey school. So he's gone from 9 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night. And I'm like, what did you just buy for $4? So
Is
yeah,
this your own app or is it an app you recommend to?
it's an app I recommend. Yeah. I should have
Amazing.
thought of it. I wish I would have thought of it.
I love that. It's so great to teach kids at a young age how to manage money. Like I
Yes.
talked about, like all these life skills, like that's why I
Yep.
wanted to know what you teach your children, because I could tell, obviously, you started at such a young age working really hard, and then you built your networking business and all these things so they could learn so much from you. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love it. So if you were to leave one piece of advice, I ask all my guests this. I don't know why I just jumped into this right now, but
I love it.
if you were to if you were to leave a piece of advice with any of us that need to hear this right now, what would that one piece of advice, based on your life journey, life lessons, what would you leave with us?
Being rich is your birthright.
Go deeper into
Yeah.
that.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, elaborate.
I'm like, do I get to just say a sentence? So a lot of people think that, only the chosen are, meant to be rich. And then it's like, no, you're here to live life and live life to the fullest. Okay. And that being said, in order to live life to the fullest in 2022, right, you have got to have money, period. So being rich is your birthright, because it's a command actually from God in the Bible that he says to live life to the fullest. And you cannot live life to the fullest without money. And so many people are stuck worrying about how they're going to pay their next bill, how they're going to get money next month. Oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? You spend so much energy in lack, and you're not meant to live in lack. Being poor is a curse. It's an absolute curse. It might have been passed down generationally, and you can break it. So the reason why you're listening to this podcast right now is to hear those words. I really, truly believe that to break that curse, you create a new generation of richness, of prosperity. And it all starts up here, believing for your prosperity every single day, knowing that you are meant to live in the overflow when you start to use words about overflow, right? And you no longer command more lack into your life, because every time you use your words of I don't have enough, all you're doing is calling things that are not to come more, right? I don't have enough. I don't have enough. So use your words to create life over yourself, right? So I am meant to be rich. I deserve to be well compensated because I give excellence in everything I do. If that is the truth, right? If that is the truth, of course you're going to be rich. And everybody's rich is relative, right? So don't, don't compare your rich to my rich, but your rich is an overflow. Know that. There's always supposed to be more than enough for you. And you get to use words that make you wiser, that make you richer. And then as the money comes in, you get to be a good financial steward. You've got to be a good financial steward, because that's also telling money you're safe with me and more money will come your way. And when you start getting in those habits, right, of being good financial stewards, more will come, and then more will come, and then more will come. And, everybody's going to have their limit, and then that's the thing you've got to work on. What else do I need to release? What else do I need to release to allow more in? Or maybe you're good and you're content and that's where you're supposed to be at, and that's okay.
That's so great. So great. I think so many people need to hear that, because so many people have a money mindset that they need to shift. And I think you help people as well, besides your business coaching and your masterminds and everything. You help with, people with mindset and money mindset.
Yeah, we focus primarily on money mindset because it's something that people, it's passed down generationally, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's
Amazing.
it doesn't happen overnight, but it'll happen.
Yeah, I agree. So where can people best find you and learn about the things you have coming in 2022? If some of those things you want to mention.
Yeah, I think if you listen into the Mommy Millionaire podcast, it's anywhere podcasts are downloaded. And even if you're a guy, we have so many guys that listen in. Even like my son's tutor listens in. It's so fun. But I would hang out over there. And then also on my social media at Cayla.craft. It's Cayla.craft. And if you're a network marketer wanting to grow your business, I have an amazing coaching program called Rewired for Business. I teach you everything you need to know to increase your team sales and your personal sales. So it's pretty incredible.
Amazing. You're the best person to learn from. I could definitely see that for sure. So thank you so much, Cayla. This has been such an honor. I appreciate you bringing everything you have brought to us today in this interview. And just thank you for all you do and your impact in the world.
Oh, thank you, Erica. I'm so grateful to be here, and make sure to leave a review of her show so it'll continue to grow.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.